The ANC's National Executive Committee is convening this weekend to tackle some of the party's most pressing internal challenges, including the potential disbandment of provincial executive committees in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. These discussions come in the wake of devastating election losses, with the party facing declining voter support in key provinces. Now, to help us unpack what these debates mean for the ANC's future and its efforts at renewal, we're joined by Professor Sethulego Matebesi, a renowned political analyst. Prof, good to speak to you this half of the year. Trust you are well indeed.
Hi, good afternoon, Hugo, and good afternoon to the viewers. Well, indeed, we're looking forward to what 2025 can offer us politically.
Well, it may not offer much politically for two PECs, Gauteng and KZN, if voting goes against them. What are some of the key considerations around which way the NEC will decide on whether to disband, keep, or how they deal with these two PECs?
I strongly believe we now need to reflect on the context, because context will provide us a bit of certainty, or at least a glimpse of how the ANC will approach this particular matter. And what do I mean by context? We should understand that I don't think this issue would even have reached the public domain a couple of 10, 15 years ago. And that had to do, and I'm just providing a hypothetical case, if KZN hasn't done well 15 years ago, because you had strong leadership, they would have come out blazing to say, how can the NEC even talk about that? But this in itself, it's indicative of the leaders that we have in Gauteng and in KwaZulu-Natal. But for me, I strongly believe that it will be societal for the African National Congress to disband any of these two provinces, because that will send a strong message to say, yes, provincial leaders have to man up in terms of organizational structures. But at the end of the day, will they be able to afford that? Will they be able to recover on the eve of a local government elections and then immediately thereafter of a general elections? And I think they will take the middle road and maybe a more cautious approach towards this.
So what does a middle road look like, Professor?
Well, the middle road for me will be to robustly debate some of the issues that that took place in both provinces that led to this, performance of the provinces. Because for me, if you talk about provinces, then obviously the NEC should also take the flak for what happened at national level, and why don't they start there? So those are the kind of decisions that I believe the ANC should take. Certain key leaders who haven't done what they're supposed to do, obviously they had to be held accountable. But the ANC cannot afford to lose much more leaders, and that they've been depending on.
Great issue that you raise, and that speaks to the separation of national versus provincial, right? So yes, we had a decline for Gauteng from 52 to 36%, and KZN, I mean, that was catastrophic, if you will, from 54% to 17.2%, largely in part, obviously, to the MK party. But where are they going to draw the separation or draw the line between performance at provincial level versus performance at national level? Because nationally, the party appears to be in a shambles.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Because remember, what happens in one province can have a huge effect, I mean, a spiral effect on other provinces. And we all know what happened when, on the eve of the elections, there were not many disciplinary issues, unlike in the past where your former Secretary General, you had a former leader, and all those issues had a huge dent on the chances, obviously, that the African National Congress had. And I think it's around that context that the National Executive Committee will have to take into consideration when they deliberate on this particular matter. They can't isolate the two. And I know the lines are blurred, but one way or the other, obviously certain national leaders, because some of them has been tasked. You've got a national organizer who oversees the elections. Have they done their work? And those are some of the issues that also have to come. As these provinces been supported financially on the eve of, if I can just speak about the Free State, some of us were talking about the visibility. Unlike in the past, the ANC only came to the party at a very late stage in terms of their pamphlets. So those kind of issues, but maybe the provincial leaders should take responsibility. But obviously, I believe there might also be national leaders who will have an oversight, monitoring role as to what is happening in the provinces, and they also have to be held accountable.
So a number of factors that you've talked about that are likely to be considered ahead of whatever decision it is that the NEC makes. Well, let's talk about the 2026 local government elections. How much of a factor are they going to be in whatever decisions the NEC makes regarding these two PECs?
Oh, well, it will definitely have a huge implications, because remember, your provincial leaders are leaders who are almost like a glue. They are the center of that province that connects all these branches together. And they are not there because, they just became leaders yesterday. They are there because they've got a strong base at a branch level. And we all know, even if some leaders will publicly say, even if I'm removed, I will remain a member of the African National Congress. We often hear that, or any other party for that matter. But we've also seen how any action, negative action taken against a leader, how that leader can just decide not to campaign. And that's where the problems comes in. And that's why I say I foresee a situation where the ANC will come out guns blazing, but they will also try to consolidate whatever is still part of the party to ensure that at least they deliver a team that will be capable to contest what I foresee almost like a more, strategic onslaught from the opposition in terms of the local government elections in 2026.
I like that term, guns blazing, but what's the justification for guns blazing? Because nationally, the entire party has failed, right? There is poor service delivery across the entire country. So what is it that you are blazing? Is it not more a conversation about, ladies and gentlemen, we have collectively dropped the ball. We've got 2026 local government elections ahead of us. How do we bolster the key areas when we talk about Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, for instance?
Yeah, well, that will partly be part of what I've earlier stated, that perhaps that will be the approach that the African National Congress will take. But I will also be surprised if they don't do an introspection at all levels, not only the two provinces, because typically this is what has happened. And I mean, it's on the, post the January 8th statement, that will also come part of the deliberations as to what will dominate, will be prioritized for 2025. But definitely, I will be surprised if no strong message will come from the NEC to say, but even those provinces where just slightly a majority, 51 plus or 50 plus, to say, but we really need to up our game in terms of our electoral machinery, because by now everyone in South Africa, if you follow politics, is clearly aware about the threat that is being posed by opposition parties in South Africa in terms of at least now setting up what I would say a fierce contest with the African National Congress.
Now, I think it's fair, Professor, and I stand to be guided by your knowledgeable self, to say that a big chunk of the ANC's losses in the last election were attributable to failure to deliver on their promises, right? And that failure was evidenced by the absence of those promises. So service delivery issues abound, unemployment, issues around crime. Every day we are burying individuals that have been shot and killed across the country. Issues around gender-based violence, those stats every quarter when they're announced, anything between 10,000 and 12,000 individuals that are subjected to those issues. So how does the ANC pick itself up in this light? I mean, you can talk about election machinery, but you also talk about the absence of the very things that they have promised the people of South Africa.
Yeah, well, and I can just add on to that. I mean, the scenes that we see from Stilfontein, where I would even say if you've got 40 foreigners, undocumented foreigners underground, that for me in itself tells us a story. And here we're talking about hundreds of foreign nationals in a country which clearly indicates that we are in danger as citizens. And the question is yet once again, if I can collectively respond to all the issues that you've raised about service delivery, governance, and all that. But remember, I can have my own opinions, and Hugo, you can have your, and even the viewers at home can have their own opinions about the African National Congress, the poor performance, and all that. But if you are a member and you're closer to the action, closer to the executive, you've got a senior position. Your responsibility is to instill confidence, and that's why each time you will see the Secretary General will come out, the spokesperson will come out, the president will come out. They will acknowledge the weaknesses, but it will also come and speak about some of the success stories. That's the nature of the African National Congress. We all know that story. But in the men in the street have realized that they can no longer buy to their, buy into these kind of stories. And what they do on the day of the elections, some of them who are not that motivated, they stay away. And that hurts the African National Congress.
It certainly does. Professor, always good to speak to you. Professor Sethulego Matebesi, political analyst, speaking to us ahead of the ANC's NEC meeting, and obviously the fate of those two PECs being Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Appreciate your time.